Welcome to Fire Up Your Life with Tony Fitzgerald.
Welcome to my podcast. Today's guest is Tyler Harris. Tyler Harris is about to celebrate his second anniversary owning his own company. And the story that he has starting 8 years ago, or even further, is just incredible. And it shows you truly on how you can create a new life and how he has formed New Life Plumbing. Tyler, tell us a little bit more about your journey.
Let's do it, man. I'm excited. This place is crazy,
Thanks for being
man.
here.
It's crazy. I feel like I'm a superstar, like I'm famous or something, man. I born and raised in Southwest Virginia. Grew up in a real small town. Nothing like Sarasota. Nothing like Florida. I was born and raised Southwest Virginia. Your typical Appalachian mountain story that you hear about on the news all the time. You know, mom and dad had struggles with addiction, and great, you know, they did the best they could. They're great people. I love them to this day, you know. But our grandparents took my brother and I in. I have a younger sister that is 3 years younger than me, Allie, and then I have an older brother, Zach, who is 2 years older than me. Allie and I and Zach have different moms, so she stayed, and then my grandparents and my mom's parents, my nana and papa, took my brother and I in, and my nana and papa are like my mom and dad.
So they raised you.
They're my angels, man.
Yeah, they raised you,
They
saved you.
us, you know.
When did they take you in?
I think I was I really don't know, 6 or 7. I was young, you know, very young. I don't remember much. I kind of remember the bad more than the good, you know.
Sure.
But I remember for a while it was with my grandparents for a week, and then my dad for a week, my grandparents for a week, my dad for a week, and then when we got old enough to decide, you know, stay with Nana and Papa, you know.
Yeah.
But they took us in and just gave us the best life they could, really. You know, they were our angels. They saved us, you know.
Yeah. When did you find yourself in Florida?
Oh man, I was so long story short, I took the same path as my parents. I was a lost kid. I was a fearful kid, you know. I could tell you 1,000 stories why you would think I wasn't fearful. I'd fight, I'd lash out, I'd act out, I'd raise hell in school, I'd get kicked out, I'd do whatever. But deep down, it was fear.
Well, that often comes from fear.
And I ended up, you know, my parents were drug addicts, so I hated drugs. I grew up, I seen what drugs did. I seen the life it caused. I seen the destruction of family. I seen the lifestyle that it was, and I swore I would never, ever touch it in my life, you know. And my parents never drank alcohol, so I'm like, oh, alcohol's not a drug. And then alcohol came around. I was like, sure, I'll try it. And from the very first moment that I drank alcohol and realized that I could change who I was, it was over. My life was over. It was like I found my cure. I found my solution. I found how to be okay, you know. And
you know, I want to speak to that. There is a person that I know in our church and in one of our church campuses, and it's similar, right? It's different, but it's similar. You looked at yourself through a different lens, and then you were happier with yourself because the alcohol was giving you a totally different perception of reality.
yeah, it was my medicine,
right?
man.
I had another story where someone had been sexually molested, and they hated themselves from it, and they ended up playing with makeup in a mirror, and that's why they ended up thinking that they should transition to a different sex. And because when they were looking at the mirror, they saw somebody that wasn't the same person they were looking at. So,
Wow.
So the reality of that was they went back, they realized that was what destroyed their life, was any type of gateway for you to look at yourself in a different light that's not real, like alcohol or what they went through.
Yeah.
So
the first time I ever drank, I blacked out. And that was my whole career of using when I drank, it made me feel okay. It shut the rat race in my head off. It shut the trauma off. It shut everything off, and it made me feel okay. And from the very first time I tried that and felt that, I chased that and chased that and chased that. And every single thing I said I would never do, drug-wise, I did.
So that opened up the doors.
Alcohol led me to you name it, and it led me to the worst case scenario: junkie, alcoholic, jail, in and out, in and out, in and out, hurting everybody, destroying my nana and papa, the ones that raised me. These are angels, right? These are people that like took us in. I would not be sitting here with you today if it weren't for my nana and papa. I don't know where I'd be, you know?
Yeah.
And I absolutely destroyed them the way I was living, because all that mattered was that I felt okay. And whoever I had to hurt to feel okay, that it had control of my life. I was in prison to addiction. And then I got on the hard stuff. And once I met the hard stuff, man, it was, my life was over. In and out, you know, arrested, in and out, in and out, in and out. Swore I'd never do it again, never gonna touch it again. Back to it. That was all I knew, is to escape.
Well, if you would share, when did you realize you hit bottom, that you had to make a change? What was it that was the catalyst?
Yeah. So, man, I want to say like my last 6 months, 8 months of getting high, I woke up every day and I'm like, I'm going to go to detox today. I'm going to stop today. I'm going to stop. And I would use every day. And if anybody listening is an addict and has ever experienced something like that, there's no fun. It ain't fun. You ain't partying. You're not hanging out. It's miserable and it's hell. And I kept going through that same cycle. And then I went out. I got arrested again one night. And my grandmother, she told me, Tyler, I'm done. Because my nana would always like be a crutch for me. I could get arrested. I could
love you no matter
what. I could go be on the streets. I could go be out for the weekend. She'd come home, feed me, give me a bed to stay. And that last time I got arrested was my nana looked at me and she said, I'm done. Like, go. And I don't want to, when I look back at it now, and I've been sober for a while, but in that moment, I didn't plan like, okay, I'm done. I was just done hurting my nana. I used to leave her up at night, and she would all night worrying about me, worried about, you know, where I'm gone for days. Is he okay? In jail, is he okay? Is he okay? Is he okay? And leave her up just miserable. And I got tired of hurting my nana. I didn't give a shit whether I lived or died. I used to use and hope like, this is it. Like, end this for me. I want to be done. I don't want to wake up or something bad really happen. I didn't want to live, but I was too chicken shit to end it. You know, I just wanted the easy way out. And I just got tired of hurting my nana, man. And I decided that I wanted some help, you know?
So it was the fact that you cared more about someone else's feelings
Absolutely.
than your own.
Absolutely. I didn't care nothing about mine.
You prioritized someone else.
Absolutely.
Which is often a great thing for people to do when they're hurting, is to focus on others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rather than their own misery and pain. So
yeah.
So you decided, and then what?
I said I want help, and I reached out to my mom, and my mom has been in and out of treatment for years, you know, and she knew how to get help, and she, God bless her soul, man, she found this rehab in Florida. And I said, I want to get the hell away as far as West Virginia and Virginia as I can. I don't want to be around here. Get me as far away as I can. And found a treatment center, and let's say that's Sunday, and I'm leaving on Thursday. And I hit it hard until the very day I left. And I went to rehab in Florida. And
what kind of process was that like? How long did it take?
The treatment center?
Yeah.
The treatment center, I was there for 70 days. So I went in there, you detox first. So they got to get you off the stuff. And that's horrible. I've detoxed in jail. I've detoxed outside. There's nothing pretty about it. But at least in there, they take care of you. They give you medication. They help you out. Make sure you don't die, basically. And then you go to a patient program inside the rehab. And, you know, bring in recovery, meet your counselor. But what changed with me is that treatment center, I wanted to be there. Like I wanted to get help. I mean, in that treatment center, they told us there was 100 people. In a year, 10 of you will still be sober. And I'm like, bullshit. Like, cause I did really good sober incarcerated. Like I could follow the rules. I could feel good about myself. I was eating every day. I was doing push-ups, but you put me out there, something clicked in my head to where it was like, okay, I'm back to it, back to it, back to it. So I was on the, like they call it a pink cloud in recovery. It's called, you're on your high horse in there, and then 90 of them are going to relapse. No way. Every bit of that is true. I mean, absolutely every bit of that. But
Did knowing that make you more determined?
I knew, well, yeah, I mean, but something happened to me in rehab, and because I didn't know what I was gonna do. I didn't. This is my first time being sober.
Are you going to be one of the 10, or are you
I
going to
didn't
be one of
know,
the
and
90?
and I damn sure didn't plan on being sober 6 years and 3 months as I am now. Trust me, that was, if you'd have told me when I was in rehab that you're gonna be sober 6 years, running your own business, sitting here doing a podcast, I'd have hit you in your nose. You know what I mean? Like, you're crazy. Shut up. You know what I mean? I was a junkie. Like the bottom. And but while I was in there, I'm learning and I'm listening and I'm realizing, like, man, I'm sick, dude. Like, there's something wrong with me. I'm not right, and I'm listening to other people share, and I'm listening, and finally, for the first time in my life, I started to open up to my counselor, Miss Kim. She was this lady, this black lady, and she saved my life, man. And I don't know why I felt comfortable around her, because I've always had people try to help me as a kid, like, you need this counseling, or Tyler, we love you, we want to help. Shut up, like, just get away from me. But for some reason, this woman, I felt comfortable around her, and I started to tell her things that I've never told anybody in my life, that those secrets they say secrets keep you sick, and it's so true. And I started talking to her, and I started telling her how I felt and things from the past, and what's going on in my head, and blah 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 blah. And but what really changed for me is, now I had no God, no higher power, no. I honestly hated God. I hated, my grandparents would go to church. They would drag us along, or I heard about church here and there. But like, my view of God is when people would tell me, God's loving and God cares about you and God made you and he loves everybody. And why in the hell did I go through what I went through as a kid? Why I had no control, and I just hated God. And I was in rehab, and I call them my uncles. They're not my blood uncles, but we have a hunting cabin that I grew up there, and I look up to these men, and these are men that I always wanted to be like, and they would mentor me, and they would try their best to, teach life into me and to stop me getting to screwing up my life. And I would hear them, but I was a slave to addiction, and it would just go in and out. But they were men of faith, and they always talked about God. And they wrote me a letter during Thanksgiving. They wrote me a card, and my Uncle Mark in that letter said, Tyler, God can help. This is while I was in rehab. He said, Tyler, God can help you if you ask him. You have to ask him. And that same night, a fella brought in a meeting, AA meeting, and he told a story to us that were in the treatment center. And he had I'm 20 years old at the time, mind you. I'm 20 years old. He had 25 years of sobriety, and he told a story, and he told my story. He told the same way I grew up, the same things I did. And all he talked about was God and how God helped. And I remember sitting there like, I'm going to ask for help. And I went back to my room that night, and I got on my knees and I prayed, and I didn't know what I was praying to. I never prayed in my life. I never said the foxhole prayers like, okay, God, be with me while I go to court. I never did any of that. It was no. And I got on my knees and I surrendered that night. And I said, God, I don't know if you're real. I don't know what this is, but I can't keep living like this, and I need help. And I got goosebumps right now, but Jesus didn't come down and you're cured, but I felt something over me saying, there was hope. You're going to be okay. I got you. I felt it. And the biggest thing that I feel like from that moment on happened to me was that fight that I always had in me. I always had this fight. If I knew you back then and you loved me and you're like, Tyler, this will really help you. Get away from me, Tony. Get away from me. But that guard got pushed down to where I was just like, okay, I'm listening. I'll accept help, I need help. I'll accept help. And that led me to Sarasota. That led me to, because I didn't know what Sarasota was I didn't know what Sarasota, Florida was when I moved here. I was in treatment, and they were like, Tyler, you got to go. You got to get out of here. Because I'd have stayed in there forever. I was just,
You just didn't want to
oh
go
my
back.
God, I felt so comfortable, safe. I was scared to be in the real world and be sober and, live like a human and brush your teeth every day and make, like I didn't know that. And Miss Kim was like, Tyler, you got to get out of here. Like it's over. And what are you going to do? And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to go back to Bluefield. I'm going to get my brother sober. I'm going to get my mom sober. I'm going to get my dad sober. I'm going to get everybody. I'm on this high horse. And she laughed at me. And she said, Tyler, they will get you high again before you get them sober. And I'm like, what? Okay, Miss Kim, like, what do I do? She said, well,
You got to break the pattern.
She said, there's this halfway house in Sarasota, Florida, and I think it'd be good for you. I said, yes, ma'am, Miss Kim. And that's where I feel like that guard that God took down from me to where I could accept help and listen. And okay, this woman is going to help me, so maybe I should listen to her. Because me running my life leads me to living in the woods, to doing drugs, to going to jail and hurting everybody around me. When I control my life and make the best decisions, like, oh, I got this, I blah, 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 I just hurt people. And I rode a Greyhound from Orlando, Florida to Sarasota, Florida, and I showed up here with nothing. I got picked up off the Greyhound bus station. I had some clothes.
Who picked you up?
Kelly Miller. She used to run the program. It was a woman that ran the program for the halfway houses, and it was called the Purpose House, man. And that place truly saved my life, man. There was 10 of us in there, and everybody's in recovery, and they're coming from every different walks of life, from prison, getting out of prison, to homeless, to rehabs, to people. Nobody shows up into one of those places and they got their life in order.
Right.
Not one person.
That's your next step after a major recovery.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yeah. And no one shows up there and on their high horse, And
I want to hit something that you said when you talked about that night you got on your knees, and I want to say this because I want to compliment that. When you find yourself to a point and God sees you drop to your knees and beg, God says, you've never done this before. This is what I've been waiting for. And opens that door for you. And I'm just curious if now, before that, you hated God, you didn't think there was any God, you had no God. Can you look back now before that and see God trying to enter your life?
Man, totally. I mean, I could tell you.
Doesn't it open so much clarity
I could tell
to
you,
your past?
Tony, I could tell you some stories where I shouldn't be alive, where I've had guns to my head, to where I've been shot at, to where I should be in prison. And the only answer was God.
Yeah.
That's it.
It connects all those dots.
Listen,
from your past.
That's it.
Yeah.
That I was supposed to stay alive.
Yeah.
That's it. And I mean, I could tell you 1,000 stories that you probably wouldn't want to hear, and they're not good, but it is I look back on it now and I know that I'm here for a reason, and that I wasn't supposed to be taken, because I should be.
Yeah.
I should be, Tony.
Well, we think in our human minds, right?
know?
We think we should be, but God always has a purpose for us, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's very important for people listening to this right now to understand that if they're in that dark spot where they don't see God acting in their lives at all, he is.
Yeah.
It's just unrecognizable from that point until you invite that in, until you lay yourself down. And you built an altar right at that spot. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's an incredible
And my
story.
mentor, my sponsor, he told me this early on, and it's always stuck with me. He said, Tyler, Jesus did not come to make bad people good. He came to make dead people live. And it's
Amen.
So true, man. Like it's so true.
That is totally true.
It's so true.
Yeah. And so your experience at the halfway house, how long were you in the halfway house after?
Man, I was there a year and a half. I lived there a year, and I came here to Sarasota. I didn't know Sarasota, and I came here with nothing. I was on probation still, from charges in Georgia. I just basically was starting. Plumbing's all I've ever known. Did
you do plumbing before?
So I did. I went to a place called the Job Corps. I was on probation as a juvenile. And I kept getting in trouble. And my probation officer said, Tyler, if you want to straighten your life up, he sent me to jail, and I got out. He said, if you want to straighten your life up, I'm going to give you a chance, and you can voluntarily go to this place called the Job Corps, and it's where they teach you trade schools, and, you're voluntarily there. And I was there for 2.5 years, learning plumbing, learning school, now it's a dorm. I mean, you're kind of locked in,
Sure.
it's not like college or like what
Right.
you would think
Totally
a normal
understand.
trade school is. It's all inner city kids, and
Yeah.
it's basically everybody. They're trying to get off the streets, trying to get out of the street life and better their life. We were all there voluntarily, and it was wild, but I fell in love with plumbing there. I had an instructor, Tommy Castle, and I fell in love with working with my hand. I've always been a hard worker. I've always worked my whole life. I've always had nothing, but I never went without. You'll never meet a lazy crackhead in your life. It's impossible. You know what I mean? I've never went without, but I've never had nothing. I've always knew hard work. I was taught that by my uncles, my grandpa, that nobody's going to give you anything. You go work, and you work, and you work. And when you're tired, you work more. And so I always knew plumbing. And then when I moved to Sarasota, that's all I wanted to do was plumbing. That's all I knew. But my driver's license was suspended for 2 years. I was in a halfway house. I had like mandatory meetings Thursdays that I had to be at for the halfway house, and then Sundays, so for Celebrate Recovery. And I had nothing, so no driver's license. I went to the Salvation Army. One of my friends took me there. I got a bicycle, and I had a bicycle, and that was all I had. And I tried applying at company here or there. There was this one place, this plumbing company that I would ride my bike to every morning, and I didn't have a phone either for GPS. So I used to go to a computer screen, and Florida, everything's straight, left, and right. Back home, we got mountains. Here you can't see where you're going. It's palm trees and stop signs and a lot of cars, straight, left, and right. And I used to write down directions to places that would hire me. Every stop sign, I'd pull out my little postcard. You know what I mean? And I had this one company that I show up on a bicycle with nothing. I'm on probation, and they're like, okay, come back tomorrow. We'll see if you're serious. And I'm there before they open. I ride my bike early in the morning. Okay, come back tomorrow. Now, mind you, I don't have any money. I don't have nothing, and I got to pay rent. So I'm like, man, I'm serious about it. And he's like, yeah, we're not going to hire you. So I'm like, all right. Well, he dragged me on for a couple.
That was a real waste of your time.
Yeah, but whatever. So the next day, I'm writing down I Google plumbing company Sarasota. I make one postcard how to get to that company. Next card, and I'm just biking, riding my bike. And I'm at my 4th stop that day. And as I'm going to one company, I see a bunch of vans coming out of this like neighborhood, or not this neighborhood, but this road. Like, here goes another truck. I'm like, oh, maybe there's something back in there. So I bike over there, and I went in there. I'm like, hey, man, like, I'm honest. Like, hey, I'm in recovery. I'm on probation. I'm not trying to hide nothing, and I will work harder than anybody and I will be here before you're here. Dave, this guy at the company, says, I'm hiring you today, and I'm just like, he's like, can you pass it? I was like, I'll pee right now. Like, I'm excited. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not worried about it. Like, I'll pee right now. I'm good. And the man gave me a chance, Tony.
That's awesome.
And I was about to have to do something else, because I had no tools, I'm on probation, no license, and all I had was a bicycle. And he's like, how are you? It was 8 miles away. I biked every day for 1.5 years to work and from work. And he said, how are you going to you're going to be at work every day? I mean, I would leave an hour early in case I popped a tire. I could run or ride my bike. You know what I mean? And he said, are you going to be able to make it on time? And within my 2nd month there, he called me into the office and told me to stop coming in so early because I was just sitting around the shop, but I was like, I told you, Dave, I'll be here, like, give me a chance. I won't let you down, And he did. And I rode a bicycle from Bay Vista to Clark Road for a 1.5 years, every to and from.
That's dedication, and I'm sure it proved it to him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you've been plumbing, and all of a sudden you get this harebrained idea to open up your own company.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? What were you thinking, and what sparked that?
For one, I started staying sober, and I started working a program, and I started getting better. I started feeling better. I started
feeling healed.
I started thinking better. That is first what changed, because from what I've been through and what I did, and thinking I could never have a life and never not be addicted to drugs, and And to go from that to just being truly free from all that and loving life and loving waking up every day and couldn't wait to ride that bike to work and to a job I was making $13. I was the happiest person in the world. And then I realized that as long as I stayed, I remember riding a bike one morning. I was like, man, as long as I stay sober, I can do anything in the world. I mean, I can do, because Tony, I used to have a pretty bad drug habit. I never had a job, but I never went without drugs. If I wanted it, I got it. If I wanted what I needed, I was going to get it. I don't know how I was going to get it, but I was going to get it. And I just kind of took that same principle and applied it to good in my life. If you want it, don't make excuses. Don't just go get it, And I just knew one day that I'd be riding that bicycle. I'm like, man, one day I'm going to have my own, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to get my own company and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And then
that's very powerful.
What really helped too is like a lot of people would say you're too young, or if you tell me I can't do, like Tony, if you said, Tyler, you can't run through that wall, I'm going to take my hat off and go head first I know
that about you.
I'm just cut out like that, yes. Tony. Is it bad? Is it good?
No,
I don't know.
Good.
I don't know, but I just stick with it, And just like buying my first house, I left a halfway house and bought my first house and still didn't have a driver's license.
Yeah.
I was looking to move out of there. It was my next stage in life because I was so comfortable at the halfway house too, man, that I was scared I was going to be there forever because that's a controlled environment there. I'm good there.
I really, that's a really good point. So before you let your fear captivate you, right? You let your fear control you and you stayed in those spots.
Absolutely.
Okay. And you stayed in those spots that you were not going to ever progress.
Yeah.
And then you changed your fear to catapulting yourself out of your comfort.
Absolutely.
And into areas that you're going to grow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's a saying, there's so many sayings in recovery, but one that stuck with me when I was in rehab, my counselor told me, she said, Tyler, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's still my life today, Tony, like in business and coming to do this. And my first thought is don't do this. Just stay in the ditch, keep working, or go to the office or when I go meet these architects. And when I first started, I'm going to meet these architects and engineers and contracts about job. I was scared shitless. Like in my head, I'm like,
right.
Do I wear a suit? Do I get a collared shirt? And I'm freaking out about it. I'm driving. I'm like freaking out in my head. I don't know what to do. And I just close my eyes like, all right, God, like, let me just be me, like I'm here. And I am what I am, and I don't lie. I don't like when I first started, I'm meeting with these architects, engineers, contractors. I don't know what a COI is. I don't know what a proof of it. I know nothing. I know plumbing and I'm really good at plumbing and I'm very confident in what I do in plumbing. Business. Tony, I didn't know. School was not my thing. They don't teach you that type. I knew nothing, but just like recovery, I was never scared to ask for help. And I'd sit at a table, my first ever contractor, this big job I'm landing, they're talking to me. And I told, just like I'm telling you right now, I don't know nothing about that, but I will do whatever it takes to figure it out. And if I mess up, you tell me, and I promise you I'll never mess it up again. Yeah. And they're just kind of laughing at me. And I'm scared. This is the same meeting I'm telling you I'm scared to like go to, and I'm terrified, you know what I mean? And they just start laughing at me and they were like, you're going to be really successful, man. And I'm like,
that's great.
Why? You know what I mean? Like,
because you're honest.
Because you're honest, that's this. And I was uncomfortable, but nothing good in my life, anything good has ever came when I'm really comfortable. I have to go get out of that comfort zone to see change, to want to be better. If I listen to my first initial thought, it's
well, fear is a motivator.
Absolutely.
But fear is a motivator for you to be paralyzed or for you to catapult yourself through that fear.
False evidence appearing real.
100%.
Fear,
Yeah. Fear is something as a firefighter I had to overcome many times.
I bet. Yeah.
And you had to change, I had to change myself. I had a fear of heights.
Yeah.
Right? I became a ladder truck operator.
Yeah.
I jumped out of helicopters for offshore boat racing, right? I had a fear of confined spaces, ended up being a confined space rescue person where I had to crawl through 20-inch PVC pipe. Like that was nuts,
I'd freak out.
It's just, so I think that the audience can really relate to fear controlling them both negatively and positively.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I believe anybody that says they don't have fear is telling a lie right through their teeth. To me, it's about what you do with it, because
How do you react to
I'll
it?
go do anything. I can tell you stories where you would think I'm the most badass I was an idiot that was scared.
Yeah.
I was a little kid that was scared is all it was, of fear of not being accepted, or fear of not fitting in, or fear of not getting what I thought I deserved or what I wanted.
Yeah.
And that's all it was fear.
So now you own an incredibly successful
It's crazy.
plumbing company.
Yeah.
And the name is incredible.
New life.
Your story is incredible. You have a new life.
Yeah.
New Life Plumbing.
New life plumbing.
I'm so proud of you as a human being, right? I love to share your story with people. And when I meet people like you that have changed so much, your story can help change so many other people.
Absolutely.
And this is definitely something that I hope this podcast does for people. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So tell us about New Life Plumbing.
New life plumbing, man. It's crazy. Before I was talking with my mentor, like when getting your contractor's license is not easy at all. You have to get your plumbing contractor's license. And the state of Florida told me I was the youngest in the state to ever do it, to ever get their contractor's license for plumbing.
Yeah.
And it's still, for the technical side, is still the only handwritten test. So it's pencil and paper, and you have to pass a business and finance, and you have to pass a technical. I failed my first time. And this is the only thing. I've never read a book in my life. I've never worked. So besides getting sober and staying sober, going at this test was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, because I didn't know how to read. I taught myself how to read. I would get a dictionary, look up the words, I'm studying, and I would work all day and I'd stay up all night, and I'd get up at 3 a.m. and I'd study for hours, and I'd blah, 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 blah. And I failed the first time, and I failed by one question, my technical. And when I found out the test results, it was like, let's go. Like, all right, you got that one, but I will
Instead of being devastated, you were motivated.
If I failed 8 more times, I'd still be studying.
Yep.
I knew it. I didn't care. And there was never a thought of, man, I should have tried harder, or I should have studied hard. I did the best I could, Tony. You couldn't have studied more than I did. You couldn't have put more effort into it. And I just said, okay, I'm it's okay. I'll be better. And I went again. I studied. And it's an 11.5-hour exam. And if you know me, I don't sit still, I'm not good at this, and I went back and I passed. I got my license. Now, even though I passed the exams, I still had to get approved by the state because of my criminal record. So that was a process you have to list everything. If you've ever been fingerprinted for a charge, you have to do that. And I did that. And the state asked me a bunch of questions, and I was scared to death, Tony, because I just did the hardest thing in my life, was pass these exams. And now I'm in the hands of 5 people of the DPBR, the state, to approve me. If they say no, there's nothing I can do.
Sure.
I just did all that for nothing. And I straight up was honest with them. Like, everything you see.
Were you called in front of them to talk about it?
Yes. And everything you see from my charges, I did. I'm guilty. And there's a whole list of what I should have been charged for. I was that person. Everything you see there, I did that, man. And I was that person. But the person standing in front of you today I'm not that person. I'm just not that person anymore. And I promise you, if you give me a chance, I will not let you down. And they voted 3-2, and it came down to the last guy, and the last guy voted yes. And I about jumped up and kissed him on his forehead. You know what I mean? And even then they could tell, that I was genuine about it. And the 3 smiled, and I smiled, and they approved me. So boom, now I got my contractor's license. And I knew the name was going to be New Life Plumbing. I just knew it because, one, now I don't try to promote New Life Plumbing as okay, this is a Christian company, or this is a because the only reason I say that is because if you come to one of my job sites, you're going to see me cutting it up, cussing with my guys, raising hell, having a blast. Okay. And I don't want someone to say, well, look what God does. And God's not messed up. I'm screwed up. God's perfect.
That is perfectly said, because we're human.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times this is just a really good point to make. I call myself a Jesus follower. I follow. Doesn't make me perfect.
Yeah.
And yes, I fit into the Christian category, but church is a place for sick people to get healed. And like your story, when you accepted Jesus, right, you were justified.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of time to wash all the dirt off the world, off of us,
Yeah.
And I make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And, and it's wise. So you are a faith-based company.
Absolutely.
And you just, and I totally understand, right?
Yeah.
Because people have the wrong perception of that we're not perfect.
No.
We are so far from perfect. If we did, we wouldn't need
absolutely.
Jesus.
Yeah. And Tony, I don't go around.
Unfortunately, we do.
I don't go around promoting it. I don't walk into a customer's home and tell them my story, because it's not, I don't look to promote it. I don't look to be worshiped or praised because I turned my life around or
yes,
you
have a new life. Absolutely. And you're living it.
Now, if somebody asks me, what does new life mean? Do you got some time? I'll tell you how.
I asked you.
I'll tell you how God's real, and I'll
That's
tell
right.
you how He saved my
That's
life.
right.
And He's put families back together, and I can go on about it. And because the fact is I asked God for help, and I'm sitting with you here with you today. I'm sober. I got a beautiful lady. I got like a perfect, and it's because I asked God for help, and it wasn't just.
You do have an awesome partner.
Awesome, the best, and it wasn't one and done. Tony, the same prayer I said 6 years and 2 months ago that I needed help. I was on my knees this morning before I went to the gym, and I asked the same God for the same help because I need help. I can't do this on my own, and
Who can?
Yeah.
Who can?
Yeah.
And I
can't do it on my own.
Yep.
And Tony, I've been in these 6 years and 2 months, I've veered away from it.
It's easy to
by choice. I'm not making
It's easy to get sidetracked.
Absolutely. And
in busyness.
Absolutely. And I have not done my routine and not done my, and I'm doing this, and all that comes is ego and fear and misery and the war zone in my head. I've not picked up or used over it but I can tell you this, Tony, I have an awesome business. I have awesome guys, an awesome lady. I could go on and on. I have jet skis and houses and you name it, and it sounds great. The happiest I was ever in my life is when I had no money. I was getting fronted money at a gas station so I could get soap, cigarettes, deodorant, and I was barely paying rent at that halfway house and riding a bicycle to work. That was the freest, happiest time of my life. Now, I'm not complaining about my life today. I love my life today.
No, but a lot of these things can cloud the fact that where we came from, because we get busy with our busyness, literally, of work, right? I have the same struggles, I try very hard to be able to be in front of cameras and do videos without patting myself on the back and giving the glory to Jesus, to God, to where it belongs. And I have to remind myself all the time, yes, I need to celebrate my successes, but they would not be here without my Lord and Savior. They would not be here if I did not accept help. And every time I veer away because we get busy, things start spiraling a little bit out of control. And the only way to get that back is get back on your knees. So I'm very glad to hear that you're back on your knees today.
Yeah, absolutely.
What, if someone is watching this and they were in your spot, in the shortest way possible, tell them what they need to do.
The hardest thing I ever did in my life was ask for help. And you're not alone, and it's okay to need help. It's okay to not have it figured out, and it's okay to seek. When you're down so low, And everybody's bottom's different. My bottom, I went through many bottoms where I thought it was it, but that last bottom was a bottom. And you're down so low, the only way to look is up and reach help. You're not alone. But the only way you can get out of whatever struggle you're having is action. You have to get off that pot. You have to take action and get moving, because nobody can do it for you but you. You have to go. You have to seek. You have to ask for help. You have to, once you receive the help, you have to do something with that help. You have to put the action to work. You can't just sit back and hope things get better.
And you'll find people that judge you, and you can't be afraid of that,
Oh, heck no.
because at the same time,
Hell
when you're
no.
doing that, you're going to find people that stick their hand out and help
Absolutely.
you up.
Yeah,
So
I'm not
you have
here.
to go through both.
Tony, the only
Yep.
reason I'm still here today is because the people that helped me walk in life, and God, and my friends, my mentor, my family, they've just the whole way just held me and shaped me into what I am today, and recovery and the whole community and the churches I could go on and on and on and on and on and on, because I have a team where I don't really make big decisions or make choices without calling somebody and saying, hey, is
That's
this
good.
stupid? Is that should I, like, I'll call you about a house, like, Tony, am I crazy? Am I stupid? What am I doing? Because you know a lot more about real estate than I do. I want to get into it and learn it. And I think I'll be researching on Google or YouTube and like, yeah, hell yeah, I got this figured out. And then it comes down to really think about it. Tony, am I stupid? You know what I mean? Like, is this smart? Is this stupid?
Right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share about, to our audience? I mean, I'm very thankful that you came on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that we've been, honestly, since the very first moment I met you a year and a half ago, probably
Yeah,
a year and a half.
Yeah, a year and a half.
I knew you'd be on this podcast
Heck
because I aligned with your story immediately. And I know that people need to hear it so that they can follow in your footsteps.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, closing, I don't know, it's your new life can look however you want it to look. It can, if you're struggling with something or if you're not, but I'm just a big believer in, if you put your mind to anything you want and you take a bunch of action to it and you seek help, you can do anything. I mean, Tony, as crazy as this sounds, I know if I wanted to sell the plumbing business tomorrow and go be a real estate agent or do what you do, I'll figure it out. I have no idea what that looks like, but I'll put the action into it.
Don't be afraid to take the action.
Don't be afraid.
Step
don't
into the
listen to what
unknown.
other people say. If someone says you can't do it, that just use that as motivation. Believe in yourself. Know that you're loved. And if you're not loved by anybody around you, the man upstairs loves you, because he loved me when he shouldn't have loved me. And know that for a fact, and seek it, ask for help, whatever it is, and just run with it, man. Believe in yourself. Like, know that you can do it. Believe in yourself. That's just what I did, man. And if I truly believe this, and I don't mean to say this like egotistically, or I don't know the word,
Sure.
but from someone like where I used to be and what I came from and the way I was, and I was a junkie and I was going to die that way, and that was all I knew. To be where I'm at today, if God can take someone like me and do that, I believe anybody can do it, Tony, and nobody can change my mind about it. If I can be where I was and be where I'm at today, man, I think anybody can do it, and I may be wrong for that, but you ain't going to change my mind,
You're
like,
not
I
wrong.
truly believe
That's
it,
right. That's right. Well, again, man, I'm proud of you, proud of what you built. I just love being a part of your journey
Yeah.
and being a friend. So thank you for coming on today.
Sweet.